I will admit, we are told as legislators when we come in, do not read your office inbox because you'll see all the hate mail that's in there and all the nice things and all the everything else. But I like to see everything that comes in. But I anticipate a whole lot of people are going to be very angry as soon as we put that out there. Actually, probably following this interview and now that they know about it, private equity investors who've told me that they have bought up neighborhoods, raised the rents 30%, and just started making a bunch of money. And when I said, well, why? The answer to that is simply because they can.
All right, welcome to the revolution. I'm trying to pronounce it right. We've got the U in the middle of revolution there. Interesting first guest for you guys, Michigan State Representative Jason Morgan. Representative Morgan, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Jen. Good to be with you.
All right, wonderful to have you. So, brother, before we talk about how one of our viewers reached out to you, tell us a little bit about yourself. So, where do you represent? How long have you been in the Michigan State House, et cetera?
Yeah, well, great to be with you. I represent Ann Arbor, Michigan in the state legislature and a little bit of the surrounding area. And I'm serving my second term. So up for re-election every 2 years here in Michigan and 1.5 or 2.5 years in.
Jason, I gotta ask, how old are you?
36, but that is the most frequent question I'm asked in my life, actually, is how old are you? Are you old enough to drive? Are you old enough to be elected to office? You name it. I've heard it and I'm totally okay with it.
Okay, so no, the reason I asked is because I realized, oh right, a lot of the legislators these days are younger than me, right? So if you're younger than me, then you probably grew up online. And so you have not been indoctrinated by a lot of the mainstream media propaganda. So it's kind of trippy for me because I'm used to talking to the ones that are like 80 years old who are like talking point robots and et cetera. So all right, so tell me about, that might explain why you were actually responsive to your constituents, because that's kind of blowing me away. That's why you're on the show here. So tell me who reached out to you and what they asked or how they reached out.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to be pretty responsive. I see every email that comes in to my office, and I will admit, we are told as legislators when we come in, do not read your office inbox because you'll see all the hate mail that's in there and all the nice things and all the everything else. But I like to see everything that comes in. You just never know when somebody's gonna have a great idea that will slip by staff, and I wanna know what's coming in. I wanna see what's happening and be able to be responsive to folks as quickly as I can. So we had a constituent reach out and say, hey, could you sign on to the Populist Plank? And I said, I took a look at it and said, wow, this is amazing. These are all of the things that we are trying to work on, from money out of politics to literally we're working on legislation to ban and restrict private equity from buying up housing. And it's such a nuanced issue that I have heard no one talk about prior to us working on this for the last couple months. So I thought, wow, there's nothing else on this list that I can think of that wouldn't hit something that we care about.
That's awesome. Okay, so the person who reached out was this guy whose handle is Killer Quip, KWIP. So he's just a citizen, right? He's a constituent and he reaches out. Was his email polite?
Yeah, it was extremely polite. Just said, hey, I think this is a great idea. The Young Turks have this Populist Plank, and would you sign on? And I will admit, I don't always sign on to like, hey, sign this pledge or this platform, because you usually don't agree with like everything on it or something like that. But in this case, I thought, wow, this is really great. Absolutely. Why isn't this everyone's platform? Why aren't we all working on these things?
Yeah, I love it. All right, so for those of you who don't know, let's show you the Populist Plank so you see what Representative Morgan's talking about. So it's for higher wages, meaning higher minimum wage. Hold on, pause there. I'm gonna come back to it, come back to me. So we just had my daughter's birthday a little while back and got her a card. And so she was born in 2012, so it had all these facts from 2012. And so it's like, okay, this is the price of gas. This was what won the best picture of the year. And one of them was, and back then the federal minimum wage was $7.25. It's still $7.25. So that's why when you see higher wages, like, oh, what do you mean? Isn't everybody for higher wages? No, under Biden, they couldn't pass higher minimum wage. So it's amazing. All right, so back on the graphic, higher wages and higher minimum wage pushes up all other wages. Paid family leave, every other developed nation has it, we don't. In fact, almost every nation on earth has it, and we don't, even though we're the richest nation on earth. No more wars, Venezuela, Iran, you name it. Let Medicare negotiate drug prices. What kind of capitalist system doesn't allow you to negotiate prices? Money out of politics, that's the big cancer obviously in politics. And what Jason was referring to there, ban private equity from buying up homes. Jason, I'm sure you don't know this, but that last one that you guys are working on, I'm very interested in that. And it sounds obscure, but you know that, I'm sure you don't know this, like I said, but this show is trying to bring together the left, the right, the middle, under this umbrella, because almost everyone in the country agrees to those 6, right? The first point of agreement that I had with Charlie Kirk was about that issue. And that's when we were interviewing him at the Republican National Convention. And I say, well, housing prices come up. And I said, what we really should do is ban private equity from buying residential real estate. And he goes, I totally agree. And I was like, oh my God, you do? Right? So apparently the right wing base and the left wing base agrees, so problem solved, except the problem isn't solved. So when you go to try to do that in Michigan, who's in the way?
We have not introduced it yet, but I anticipate a whole lot of people are going to be very angry as soon as we put that out there. Actually, probably following this interview and now that they know about it. This is the first I'm sharing that I'm working on it. So I anticipate that pushback to be very, very strong. I have found in the legislature here in Michigan that there are like really big issues like this, like money in politics, healthcare costs, energy costs. If you have real legislation that might actually hit on these issues in a way that will solve the problem, you find people come out of the woodwork and just be angrier than heck. I'm trying not to swear, but angrier than heck at what you're trying to do. And that's usually when you've hit on a critical issue that might actually help people. So private equity and housing, for folks that don't know, this is where you raise a bunch of money from big investors, you buy a bunch of homes with cash or these really cheap loans, you convert them to rentals, or you just jack up the rental costs for people who are already living there. And then you like bundle that income together and maybe sell it off, or just keep those rents going up and up and up and sucking more money out of people who live there. And I have heard real horror stories of this from folks who have actually, frankly, done it. Private equity investors who've told me that they have bought up neighborhoods, raised the rents 30%, and just started making a bunch of money. And when I said, well, why? The answer to that is simply because they can't, because there's no one stopping them. And when I said, well, what about those people who live there and their ability to pay to stay living in their home? And they said, well, they can afford it. We've calculated that they can afford it based on their income. But there's a difference between technically being able to afford it and it being the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do. And it's just parasitic, I think, to our country if we allow private equity firms to continue buying up homes and neighborhoods and residences and just sucking money out of our people and out of our communities. It's wrong, and I think we've got to stop it, and I don't really care who it makes angry.
I love it. Okay, so that's absolutely right. And what they're trying to do is they're going to try to take the biggest wealth creation asset that the average American has away from them. So instead of you creating that wealth, the bankers are going to create wealth for themselves. And then it becomes a vicious circle, because the more houses they swallow up, the higher the housing prices go up, because now there's less supply of houses because they bought so many of them. And they know that, obviously they're in finance. So then the housing prices go up, and become unaffordable to you, but they could still buy them. So now you're in a narrower and narrower group of houses that you could possibly afford. And then on top of that, once you become a renter, they got you hooked. You can't leave your job, you can't do anything, your freedom's gone because you need to be able to pay the rent, but you can't create any wealth because you don't own it. So that's why you need legislators like Representative Jason Morgan here and others. Josh Turk in Iowa has proposed a bill like this. I think Daniel Biss did in Illinois, Mayor of Evanston, Illinois. So I love that it's out there and it's making the rounds. But Jason, you said something really interesting there. They come out of the woodwork. Who is they and what's the woodwork? Like, is it lobbyists? Is it other politicians? Because I don't think that there's anyone on the right or the left or the center, any real citizen who's like, oh my God, what are you doing, trying to stop housing prices from going up? I need them to be way higher. I don't know a single person like that. So who are they?
Generally lobbyists, and a lot of times if entities don't have a lobbyist in a state, they will then immediately start hiring up if there's legislative work around that area. To give you one example, we introduced a bill on making it easier to unsubscribe from online subscriptions. There are lobbyists calling me that I had no idea were working for these different tech companies that immediately came out requesting meetings. And I'm happy to meet with them, love to hear their perspective and why they support or oppose, generally oppose. Actually, it's very rare that somebody reaches out and says, hey, I like what you're doing when you're trying to take on some big corporation. But you certainly hear from a lot of folks who don't particularly enjoy what you're doing. And we had great meetings with folks, but it's these kind of things. So lobbyists reach out and they find that you've struck a chord with an industry that's making money off folks, and you're trying to make it so that maybe people save a buck at the end of the day. So they will call and reach out, schedule a meeting and say, hey, we want to have you not introduce that legislation or put specific provisions in it that make our client okay, or they'll try and just tell you, here's why this is bad, and if you don't change it the way we want, then we're just gonna work really hard to kill it and make sure it never passes.
Yeah, I want to keep following this because if others, legislators oppose this bill, they better have a good reason. And because my sense is they don't have a good reason other than the campaign cash they got, right? Yeah, so
I want to hit on that piece. So the money and politics piece of your platform, I think is critical because you don't have to convince, there are 110 legislators in Michigan. But you don't have to convince 110 legislators or even half of us to vote no on something. All you've got to convince are the people who are in charge of each caucus of each party. So that the leadership of the Democratic caucus, leadership of the Republican caucus, in the House and the Senate, or just one governor, whichever party they may be. If you convince one of those three people to kill something, they can kill it immediately by simply not ever bringing it up for a vote, sending it to a committee to die, or never bringing it up in the first place. I've introduced some legislation where I've been told you can't introduce this in our own caucus room or in our government building. We won't give you the space to rent out that room to do a press conference or to announce anything because it will be bad for us on the money side of things. And that's something I've heard more than once on legislation that I've been working on. And that's the real crux of the system that we're in, is every individual legislator doesn't truly matter. If you just convince the person at the top, whichever political party they're in, you control those folks with the amount of money and resources that you can command, then nobody else really matters. And it's a lot cheaper than trying to buy off a half of each legislature in the first place. So that's something that happens very frequently, and it's part of a problem that we're trying to also solve to reduce the money flowing in our politics, but also reduce the consolidation of power at the top financially in our caucuses.
Yeah, so if they tell you can't do it in the government offices, just do it at a Denny's. It'll embarrass them more, it'll be better. And point out that they wouldn't let you do it because of the money. But I wanted to stay on that for a second because you said something really interesting there. Inside the caucus, is there discussion of, but that would hurt us with the money? Or is there like halfway frank conversations about that?
I'll say it this way. I talk to my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle as well, and this happens in both parties, in all chambers of the legislature in Michigan, both chambers. There are very powerful interests that if you are working on things that will harm their bottom line, they will make it very clear that you need to stop. And they will either come after you if they think they can impact your election, or if not you, then somebody else within your party who is more vulnerable.
Yeah, so we saw this happen with Wolfpack. So Wolfpack was to get money out of politics. It still is. Everybody can check it out. Fightcorruption.us. And we were doing great with people like Representative Morgan, right? Folks who care, who are trying to do the right thing, and then both Democrats and Republicans, by the way. And then the chairmen on both sides started killing it. They're like, no, wait, nope, love money in politics. That's how they got there. They got there through, almost everybody in leadership got there through money in politics. So it's a huge, huge problem. Jason, I'd love to talk to you about Wolfpack another day because we need to get around Washington. We need to be able to propose bills that say, hey, you know what? You guys, that's it. We're calling for Article 5 convention. We got to get money out now. We need an amendment to do it. No ands, ifs, or buts. So that's for another day. I love that you signed the Populist Plank. By the way, guys, if you're out there and you want to do the likewise here, reach out to a legislator because you never know, they might be as reasonable and open-minded as Jason Morgan here. Go to tyt.com/endorse populism, tyt.com/endorse populism to ask your legislator, right wing, left wing, doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter, to endorse this. We got Andrew Yang coming up, he loves it. So that's independence too. So Representative Morgan, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being open-minded and for being responsive to your constituents. That's beautiful, that's democracy in action, we really appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you, great to chat with you tonight.
All right, wonderful, hope to see you again soon, especially with that housing bill, all right? All right, so that's great. All right, guys, so in the time that we have left before the Andrew Yang interview, I wanna give you guys some updates on some of the things that we've been doing. Like I said, look, tyt.com/endorse populism works, so give it a shot, go get them. And I've seen you guys asking legislators to also endorse HR 3493, that's the Fair Drug Prices Act, basically. And we've showed it on air here. Love it. Keep it going. So now, some folks wrote in. Native Opinions asked on tyt.com/ideas, or said, in a previous bonus episode, Revolution Without Violence, Cenk mentioned past attempts to organize content creators to, I assume, work together to create messaging on common issues. I would like to understand better what has been tried in the past. I wouldn't mind trying to lead a video effort to organize AI content producers to create PSAs on a variety of subjects, such as this one on the Trump ballroom. All right, so look, I never want to discourage you from trying. So if you can make it work, beautiful, and somebody's gonna make it work. And maybe it'll be us eventually with you guys, nudging us along. But in the past, yeah, it's a lot of different attempts at cooperation have not gone that well. Here, I'll tell you a story I'm not sure I've told before real quick. So we were trying to coordinate something about climate change with the Sunrise Movement. We were trying to put together a democratic debate because a lot of you guys contributed to it. And we're actually pretty close. We had like 3 people on board, I think, including Andrew Yang. And so we were so close. And we wanted Sunrise to work with us because it was about climate change, right? And it hadn't been getting enough coverage in the Democratic primaries. And the local group in Iowa was like, no, we're gonna work with the Republicans and blah, 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 blah. And we know this and you don't know and we know. And I was like, a bunch of 24-year-olds are telling me that they figured out how to get Republican politicians to care about climate change. And they got this thing on lockdown and they don't want to work with anyone else. All right. I mean, it's just, don't take it out on that one group. It's a local chapter, etc. They're probably way long gone. And that's why I'm telling this story in hindsight, because I didn't want you guys to get upset at them. But it's just a representative story. Like you go to work with other groups on the left. Okay, but how about email lists and this and that? What's in it for me is like the biggest question. I don't know, how about the actual issues that you claim you're working on? How about that? I'm not asking for anything. So I haven't had a lot of luck in that regard. I mean, sometimes, and then with the content creators, they're so hard to organize. And we have another problem on the left, if we're being honest. More of a historical problem. I don't see it as much these days. Like one person declaring that they're the king of the left and canceling everyone else. No, he said something that I didn't like. That isn't, and now forget like scandalous things, like that is an incorrect opinion. Now you have to cancel them. No, I'm not gonna cancel them. That's not my business, right? No, that's it. And then a rebellion begins and then everybody cancels each other. Oh, yeah. How many years we wasted like that? So I'm just keeping it real. You asked, I'm answering, okay? So I was gonna say the right wing doesn't have that many, doesn't have as big a canceling problem. And then I was like, wait, what am I talking about? Today on the show, we did the whole thing about Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro trying to cancel Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, everybody else that won't bow down to Israel. So now right wing has it even bigger than left wing had it. So eventually we're all gonna cancel each other and there's gonna be but no one left. And the elites are gonna be like, yes, we got them all to cancel each other. And now our power's totally unchallenged. Anyways, okay. So, native opinion, undeterred, kept going. I didn't know that I was gonna, and there was a video, I don't know if we should have time to show the video or, let's just keep going on it. Sorry, native opinion, video next time. Cenk often says how awful Democrats are at messaging. I think one way to change that is to organize content creators with a mission to show Democrats how to message effectively while also showing Republicans they are not the only game in town. I'd love to hear other thoughts, particularly from those who are currently producing content. Can we get more content created in a short period of time on top 10 issues leading up to the 2026 election? Okay, so now this I like a lot. So that's a little bit different. Number one, what am I doing here? I'm not looking to cooperate with the groups. If they come in, wonderful, we're happy to have them, right? Or other content creators, again, if they come in, we're love to have them, right? I'm looking to mainly work with you guys, the average person, right? Because you guys have so much talent that's going untapped. We asked you guys to build websites, boom, all of a sudden there's websites. So social media, oh my God, I think you guys could kill it on social media. And I want you guys doing these things that we're talking about here and doing it better than us so I can highlight it and get you some credit that you deserve for a greatly edited video, a meme, a graphic, anything you guys got. And in terms of showing the Democrats how to message, now that's something that I love. So I want to do that more and more going forward. And it doesn't have to be Democrats. It could be independents, it could be anyone, as long as we're in agreement. So yeah, we have a tremendous know-how at TYT on how to spread a message online. And if people are going in a populist direction, that makes sense. We could help them. All right, I love that you're participating. W.S. Lichter says, right now, Montana is launching an initiative that will dramatically undercut Citizens United decision. Montana's Transparent Election Initiative proposes a state constitutional amendment known as the Montana Plan that would ban corporate and dark money in elections, directly challenging the Citizens United ruling. Core proposal amend Montana's constitution and declare that corporations and other artificial entities do not have the power to spend money or anything of value on elections or ballot measures. Legal strategy. Instead of challenging Citizens United directly in federal court, the initiative uses Montana's authority over corporate chartering to redefine what powers corporations have under state law. This is an elegant solution that avoids the giant barrier of a constitutional amendment. If we were able to leverage what Wolfpack has already achieved in terms of connections, we could advocate for the Montana Plan language as a local referendum or state amendment and effectively shut down corporate funding of elections on a state-by-state level. The legal language being proposed is very solid. Please check out the Lever podcast on the Montana Plan for a great in-depth Q&A. It's incredibly exciting. You know what? Great idea. I'll do you one better. I'll invite reporters from the Lever on here and we'll have a conversation about it because that's a super interesting idea. And on top of that, I'll reach out to Larry Lessig as I promised last week. People asked, hey, doesn't the BDS laws basically, aren't they in direct conflict with Citizens United? And I'll ask him about this Montana plan. So we'll start to have a little bit more guests and guest co-hosts that begin to tell us about their vision, how to get our government back. Because the revolution is about getting our representative government back. Right now, it's totally run by the donor class. Can't stand it. I mean, look, one of the things we've been focusing on is there's an American kid in an Israeli prison right now. He didn't do anything wrong. He's lost 30% of his weight. He's terribly sick. And the American government isn't even trying to get him out. Why? Because Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State. And Marco Rubio has gotten, at a bare minimum, $6 million from the Israeli lobby. So he thinks, I don't represent America. I don't care about that 16-year-old American kid who should be right now in school in Florida. So that's why we're asking #FreeOurChild, but he won't. There's no way Marco Rubio cares about an American kid. He only cares about Israel because they're all servants of the donor class, and that's a huge donor for Marco Rubio. So make sure you're supporting Wolfpack. That's fightcorruption.us, and let me get those guys on here. Let me get all those different guys on here with their different ideas on how to defeat money in politics. Because as you heard from Representative Morgan there, if you don't defeat money in politics, the chairman of the committees, the leadership in both parties are totally owned by the money, and they will never do anything for you. They're giant liars. They're in a lot of ways traitors, to be honest. I don't mean it in some hyperbolic way, and we never do anything physical or violent, ever. And if you do, you're not one of us, right? But there should be political consequences for people who betray their voters for the donor class, which is unfortunately almost all the leadership across the country. Okay, political leadership. All right, guys, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, Andrew Yang.